I'm going to tell you something I don't talk about often. I was a person people walked up on eggshells around, not because I was violent, but because I was abusive. Because you never knew which version of me was going to show up next. One moment, calm, normal, even fun to be around. Next moment, something triggers like that, and I'm gone. Full anger, instant like a switch, you can say. And the worst part wasn't the explosion, it was what happened after. The silence, the regret, the why did I do that again? And the same triggers things happening next week. Same eruption, same regret, same triggering. It was on a cycle, on a repeat, on a loop. If you ever felt like your own reactions are running things you care about, stay with me, because what I found underneath that anger changed the entire direction of my life. Let me take you back. There was a time when my work and my personal life were feeding each other poison. Something would happen at work, a deal doesn't close, someone says something I disagree with, a small fiction, and that which shouldn't matter. And instead of processing it there, I'd carry it. I'd walk through the door at home already loaded with that. And the first thing that went slightly wrong, a comment, a question, even a look, boom. The reaction wasn't the proportional to what happened, it was proportional to everything I was carrying with me. The build up, you must be linking to that build up which happens. And then at home, after the explosion, the guilt would sit on me like a weight. I'd go to work the next day carrying that shame, frustration with myself. And now I'm at work with emotional hangover from the last night. And the cycle repeats. And the worst part are the regrets. Work leaks into home, home leaks into work. There was one clean space I thought that might be my home, but that was no longer that space I was looking for. No room in my life where emotional charge wasn't present. I was bouncing between two worlds and contaminating both with the same unprocessed energy. And the people around me, my partner, my friend, the people I work with, they started doing something I didn't notice at first. They started stepping back, not dramatically, quietly. They stopped telling me things that might set me off. They started managing me instead of being honest with me. And slowly I became the person people tolerated, not the person they trusted. I was pushing away every person I cared about, not with my intention, but with my patterns. Now, here's where most people expect me to say I went to therapy, or I read a book that changed my life, or I had a spiritual awakening. What actually happened was smaller than that and much more powerful than that. I was in the middle of an argument. I don't even remember what it was about, but and for the first time, genuinely the first time, I felt the anger rising before it came out, not after the damage, before it. I felt my chest tighten, my jaw clench, the heat coming up, and something in me said, wait, this isn't about right now. That pause, half a second pause, maybe less than that. That was the first time I saw the loop from the outside instead of being inside it. I didn't calm down immediately. I still reacted, but it was different. Less intense, less total. Because for half a second, I wasn't the anger person, I was the one watching it. And that half second gap, that tiny space between the triggers and the reaction, that's where everything I now teach began. When I started paying attention not to the anger but to what was happening underneath the anger, I found something I didn't expect to connect. It wasn't rage, it wasn't even frustration. Underneath all of it was a feeling of not being heard, of not being seen for what I was actually going through, of carrying so much internal and nobody around me understanding the weight of it. The anger was a protest. My system was screaming, see me, hear me, understand what I'm dealing with. But it was screaming in a language that pushed people away instead of pulling them in. Every explosion was my emotional system trying to communicate a need it didn't have the vocabulary for. And because it couldn't say I'm overwhelmed or I need support, I said it through anger, through shutdown, through reaction that destroyed the very connection I was desperate for. So instead of getting that emotion, wanting that emotion, turned out to be reversed to pushing everyone away. And this is what I mean when I say your emotional loop is a pattern, not a personality. I wasn't an angry person, I was a person with an unprocessed emotional charge that had no healthy exit. And the healthy exit, the anger, became so automatic that time that it felt like who I was. But it wasn't, it was what was running me more, you can say. There is a difference in between that. But what changed wasn't my temper, what changed was my ability to see the loop in real time. Not after the explosion, not the next morning in regret, not during the guilt phase, in real time when it was happening. While the anger is still rising, while the chest is still tightening, while the words are still forming, that's where the power is, not in controlling the reaction, in seeing it before it completes. Because here what happens when you see a pattern clearly, it can't operate the same way anymore. It loses its control over you, it loses its power over you. It's like watching a magic trick after someone showed you how it works. The illusion breaks, the automation loosens, and for the first time, you get a choice, an actual choice, not a reaction, wearing the costume of a choice. I still feel anger. I'm not a monk, but the difference between who I was and who I am now is that gap. That half second, that space where I can see the loop firing and choose not to follow it all the way through. That gap didn't come from willpower, it came from awareness. Real felt in the moment awareness of the pattern. The same awareness I teach in everything I do at Reset Entropy. This is my story, but I know it's not just mine because every week people DM me their entropy code and I can see the same pattern running through their messages. The same anger, the same guilt, the same cycle of work leaking into home and home leaking into work. And it doesn't just end there. It's important to figure out the root cause of it, where it starts from. Why do you crave the need? It goes much more deeper than that. but the entropy code helps you pinpoint in which direction to look into. If this resonated, if you saw yourself somewhere in what I just told you, decode your loop. Go to my Instagram at red reset entropy, find the entropy code reel on the carousel. Two pics, DM me your code. I'll send you your specific loops profile. And if you want to sit with this deeper, I run a free live masterclass called Decode My Loop, where I walk through this entire framework, how the loop forms, how it operates, and how to start seeing it in real time. Link is in the description. This week, I'm breaking down where your emotional loop leaks. Monday was about money. Today, Wednesday is about relationships. Friday is about health. Subscribe so you don't miss it because the loop doesn't stay in one place. It follows you everywhere until you see it.